So in this video, I'm going to talk about a lot of information that I found on brown fat adipose tissue. So rather than do a whole bunch more videos, I'm going to try and put a lot of this info in this video. So I'm going to be stopping and starting quite a bit and talking about it. So here we go. Here's the first one. Their papers indicate that nearly every adult has little blobs of brown fat that can burn huge numbers of calories when activated by the cold, as when sitting in a chilly room that is between 61 and 66 degrees. I'm going to continue. Thinner people appeared to have more brown fat than heavier people, and younger people more than older. People with lower glucose levels, presumably reflecting higher metabolic rates, had more than those whose metabolisms were more sluggish, and women had more than men. People taking beta blockers for high blood pressure or other medical indications had less active brown fat. Let's stop here. So we've all had this brown fat pretty much all our lives. Why aren't we thin? We've all been exposed to cold weather numerous times. I know I have. And just from those exposures, I have not remained thin, and I have not gotten as ripped as I am now just from that. So I guess it would be safe to say, without any need for scientific studies, that alone does not cause you to be thin. People in Alaska and up on the tundra, up on the South and North Poles are not thin just because of the cold. There's plenty of larger people up there. So let's continue. The hope is that scientists may find safe ways to turn on people's brown fat, allowing them to lose weight by burning more calories. But researchers caution that while mice lose weight if they activate brown fat, it is not clear that people would shed pounds. They might unwittingly eat more. The data on global patterns of obesity are not good enough to say whether living in a cold climate makes people thinner. Let's pause here. So again, what I was saying earlier, they are already realizing this. Just because you live in a cold climate does not make you thinner. So let's continue. A substantial increase in energy expenditure was observed in all the subjects exposed to mild cold. But, and we'll continue here, the authors found no correlation between cold-induced thermogenesis and brown adipose tissue activity. Let's pause here. Again, some studies say one, other studies say another thing. So who are you going to believe? I say believe experience. Experience is always the best teacher. All you got to do is look around you and see who's thin, who's not, find out what they're doing, and do what they do. In my case, I use cryolysis. In other people's cases, they use liposuction. You want them sticking needles in you? Go for it. I didn't want that, so I took the easier route, and it worked. Let's continue. A major shortcoming of the studies is the lack of direct correlation between brown adipose tissue activity and cold-stimulated changes in energy expenditure. This could be secondary to the inability of the PET-CT technique to measure the activity of small nests of brown adipose tissue. Now let's pause here. From what I gathered, what they were talking about, these PET scans actually, they were having problems with it originally, and this is how they kind of accidentally came across this. So they would find out that because the rooms were kind of cool, on the cool side, people's brown fat, started to come active, and they would see this on the PET scans, which would hinder their visuals of what they were trying to see. But then they got kind of a clue and started figuring out, well, let's find out what this stuff is. They realized it was brown fat, and this is what they were doing. So again, the heart tissue, the lungs, all of these have small deposits, so it's hard for them to measure the activity. So again, even in cold activation, it's not just the brown fat, it's your organs themselves that are actually burning calories and generating heat too. It's not just one system. We have multiple systems that keep us warm. It's just one of them. So let's continue. Another possible and not mutually exclusive explanation could be related to the fundamental physical difference between obese people and lean people. Obese persons have a natural coat of tissue with a low coefficient of thermal dispersion. In such persons, superficial vasoconstriction would be an efficient means of maintaining core temperature. The data on skin temperature recorded by Van Marken-Lakenbelt seemed to validate this explanation. When exposed to cold, obese subjects showed a greater differential in skin temperature to core temperature than did lean volunteers. If this is true, it would represent yet another obstacle to the success of weight loss strategies. And again, science, if you read the studies, get the facts, they show that obese people have less brown fat. So it's going to take you far more time to create this brown fat, if it's even possible. And also your constriction, one of the other systems that your body uses to keep from, your extremities from getting cold, is your veins, your vascular system will constrict. So it will not pump as much blood out to your hands, your feet, and your lower extremities. That is enough in people that are slightly overweight than the ones that are lean to keep them warm. So it may not even activate their brown fat for quite a long time unless they get really, really cold, and then their vascular constriction system isn't enough. So again, let's continue.